Hello and welcome to Torah Thoughts. I want to devote this particular Torah thought Le'ilui Nishmat Zisel Bat Yaakov, whose Yortzeit, the anniversary of her death is today, the 12th day of Iyar. May her neshama have an aliyah, meaning may her soul continue to elevate in heaven, and may she stand before the throne as an advocate for all of us, for all of our suffering to end and for the final redemption to come. So this week's Torah portion, the Parshat of the week is Parshat Emor. Literally, Emor means say. Emor the Torah tells us that God spoke to Moshe and says to him, Emor el hakohanim b'nei Aaron. Tell the priests, the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, v'amata aleim lenefesh lo yitama b'amav, and say to them that they should not defile themselves, meaning touching something that is unholy. They should not do that for the sake of anyone else among the nation. Meaning basically that they're not allowed to touch any dead bodies or take care of a dead body, the burial process, that kind of thing, attending a funeral and so on. So this parsha, it has mainly four segments, if you will. The first one describes several laws regarding the Kohanim, and then afterwards there are laws regarding livestock and what type of livestock and cattle, what you can bring for a sacrifice, and then there are laws regarding the Jewish calendar, which in fact contains the process of the Omer, the counting of the Omer, literally counting the days from Pesach till Shavuot, which we're in the process of doing that now. And then there's a section about different functions of the fixtures in the temple. So what does the menorah, how do you use the menorah, when do you light, how do you light, and so on, what kind of oil, and the shulchan, the table that had the bread on it. So those are the four main sections. And some of the other laws regarding the Kohanim. It discusses who's qualified to be a Kohen, because you have to be born a Kohen. A Kohen is someone who was born to his father is a Kohen. But there are certain qualifications. If you have a physical disability or a physical injury or so on, there are certain things that disqualify you from being a Kohen. It also discusses whom a Kohen can and cannot marry, and what kind of food that's sanctified, when a Kohen can and cannot eat that. So meat from a korban, from a sacrifice, or food that's donated to the temple. There are certain cases in which a Kohen can eat that, certain cases in which he cannot. There's somewhat of I see a recurring theme in all of this. The Torah keeps repeating, as the Torah tells us these laws, in essence, the reason, if you will. It says, Ki kadosh ani Hashem mekadishchem. I, God, who sanctify you, am holy. Or it says, in various places, something similar. Ki kadosh ani Hashem mekadishchem. Ki kadosh ani Hashem. Again, in several places, it keeps repeating, Ki ani Hashem mekadsho, I am God who sanctifies him, and so on. And it seems to me that that's the explanation. God says, why am I telling you that you can and cannot do these things? Because I'm making you holy, and I'm holy. So I'm going to come back to that, but you kind of see that that is something that is relevant to all around what's going on over here. I want to go back to one of the very first commandment, like I said, in the very first verse. It says that a Kohen, it says, Lo yitama ba'amav. He's not allowed to defile himself, or to, for lack of a better explanation, to render his body not holy by coming in contact with a dead body. He cannot do that on behalf of anyone among his nation. And the Talmud explains that what the Torah means by saying among his nation is that if the dead person is among his nation, he's among his people, then the Kohen is not allowed to come in contact with him. The Kohen is not allowed to render himself unholy by coming in contact with the body and taking care of burying the body and so on. provided that the dead person, that the deceased is among his nation, meaning provided that there's someone else around, someone else is available to take care of the burial. On the other hand, if a Kohen would find a dead person in an area where there's no people, what is known as a mitzvah, deceased whose burial now becomes a mitzvah. It's always a mitzvah, but the mitzvah falls upon the person who finds him. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that there's no one physically around, but if there's no one available to take care of the burial, then the Kohen is allowed, in fact commanded, to go ahead and bury that person, to take care of that burial. And this applies even to a Kohen Gadol, meaning the high priest, who, an ordinary Kohen is not allowed to engage in the burial of other people unless it's an immediate family, a wife, a child, a sibling, parent. But a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to engage in the burial of anyone, even an immediate relative. That is the Kohen Gadol, that's the high priest, that's a special rule for him. But for a Met Mitzvah, who is a stranger, the Kohen is, in fact, is commanded to go ahead and engage in their burial. It's that big of a mitzvah. If someone dies and doesn't have anyone to bury them, it's one of the biggest mitzvahs that you can do, which even the Kohen Gadol is exempted from his other from his duties as a Kohen. Okay, so then the Torah goes on, like I said, commandment regarding treating animals, and one of the commandments regarding, like I said, not just livestock for the sacrifice, but how to treat the animals. It says you cannot bring two livestock, two cattle, as a sacrifice. If it's a mother and a child, you can't bring them the same day. Torah also tells us that you cannot bring, if something was born, say a calf is born, you must leave the calf with its mother for the first 7 days, and only on the 8th day does it qualify to bring as a sacrifice. You can't bring as a sacrifice something that was born within the past 7 days. And again, I want to come back to that and what's the significance of that relative to this particular parsha, because a lot of what's going on in this parsha seems unconnected. So anyway, after all of that, the Torah discusses, like I said, the Jewish calendar, and then discusses what goes on in the Mishkan and later on the temple. And then there comes this story that seems completely disconnected from everything that's going on here. So it says, Vayetze ben Isha, the son of Ben Isha Yisraeli, the son of an Israelite woman, went out. Vahu ben Ish Mitzri, but he is the son of an Egyptian man. So meaning when the Jews were still in Egypt, apparently this woman got pregnant from an Egyptian man, and now the son, years later, he's an adult, he goes out among Israel, okay, and he gets into some sort of a quarrel. There's a quarrel between this man and another member of the nation of Israel. And in that process, Vayikov ben Ha'isha Yisraelit, the son of the Jewish woman, cursed God's name. He blasphemed God's name, and it was actually the name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, that he invoked in cursing God's name. Vayikalel, and he cursed him. Vayivo oto, vayaviu oto el Moshe, and they brought him to Moshe. They arrested him for committing blasphemy. They brought him to Moshe, and then the Torah tells us the mother's name. V'shem Emor Shlomit bat Divri l'matei Dan. Her name was Shlomit, the daughter of Divri, from the tribe of Dan. It's interesting that the Torah doesn't tell us his name. The Torah only tells us his mother's name. But anyway, so here they are. They arrest him. They kept him in custody. They quarantined him, right? And they're waiting for a sentence. They need to know what do we do with a man who committed this sin? Remember, the Torah had recently been given, and Jews are studying the Torah, but they haven't become experts at everything yet. And even in the case where you are an expert, sometimes you need to do research. Whatever the case may be, they need to know what to do with him. So Moshe goes and asks God what happens. And God tells Moshe what to do, but in a very unusual way. But Hashem speaks to Moshe. Emor, saying as follows: take this blasphemer take him outside the camp, V'samchu kol hashomim et yadeim. Everyone who heard him commit blasphemy, everyone who heard him curse God, shall put their hands al rosho on his head. It's not literally, but basically meaning that they put their hands towards his head. V'ragmu oto kol ha'edah. And the entire community shall stone him. What does it mean they put his hands towards his head? Basically what they're saying is, this is on your head. Right? What he did, the people, God just ordered Moshe to tell the Jews to stone this man. And they need to know when they do this that it's not on their head. Right? And then it continues. B'nei Israel tadaber, and speak to the nation of Israel. Ish, every man, ki yikalel elokav, if he curses his God, v'nasa cheto, he will carry his own guilt. Again, meaning that this person now that's being put to death, it's on him. Okay. V'nokev shem Hashem mot yumat. Anyone who pronounces in blasphemy that the name of God that is spelled with Yud Kei Vav Kei shall be stoned to death. Kol ha'edah, that applies to everyone. Kager v'ka'ezach, that's both the convert and the citizen. B'nakvo, if they pronounce God's name, that particular name, in blasphemy, b'nakvo Shem yumot, you will die. Okay, we got it, right? Wait, there's more. Then it says, a man who kills another man shall be put to death. What's the relevance between this? We'll find out. A man who kills livestock has to pay for it. And you get these laws that it's in the context of Moshe asking God, what do we do with this person who committed blasphemy? God says, okay, you stone him. And anybody who commits blasphemy using this particular name will be stoned. And if a man kills another man, he'll be put to death. And if a man kills livestock, he has to pay. If you injure someone, you got to pay or take punishment, depending on whose opinion of the interpretation. Most people interpret that as, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It talks about restitution, not necessarily a punishment, but whatever. What do these laws have to do? And then after it finishes all of this, it says, Vaydaber Moshe b'nei Israel. Moshe went and took this information that God just gave him to the nation of Israel. Vayotziu et ha'makalel, and they took the blasphemer out, and mechutz l'machna, outside of the camp. Vayirgemu oto. They stoned him. They killed him by stone. Uvnei Israel asu kasher tziva Hashem et Moshe. And Israel did as God commanded Moshe. Which is, again, it's peculiar. Okay, the man commits blasphemy, and God says you have to kill him. And then there's a whole bunch of other laws that seems to be not connected to all this. And then it goes back, and the nation of Israel did that, and they killed him, and they did as God commanded Moshe. What's the connection to all of this? Well, I want to go back to where when God gives the commandments, it says, I am God who sanctifies you. I God who sanctify you, am holy. And so on. And again, I think what's going on here is God is telling us, when you carry out a commandment, don't think that it's because you agree with the commandment. I mean, when they put this person to death, by modern standards, by standards of Western society, let's call it, it's cruel, it's harsh. I mean, somebody who hears me saying something like this, that the Torah says to kill a man who commits blasphemy, would say, "Oh my goodness, you're no different than the mullahs in Iran." Well, I may or may not be different. Certainly, I'm different in the sense that the Torah is true, the Quran isn't. But then again, Muslims say that the Quran is true, right? The bottom line is, for better or for worse, we do what the Torah says. And we believe that's for the better, obviously, but I'm saying is whether it looks good, whether it looks bad, we do what the Torah says. Whether we agree with it or whether we don't agree with it, we do what the Torah says. And that's why it says they killed him, not out of anger. It says they fulfilled the commandment that God gave Moses. God says to stone him, and the Jews went ahead and did it, not because they were angry at him. You don't come after someone, don't be angry at someone because you love God so much that now you're going to do something that God doesn't allow. Which is why then it says you can't commit murder. Okay? In the context where God says that this person must be stoned, God says, but if you kill someone without me telling you, without the Torah commanding it, That's murder. And you're going to be put to death. If you do damage to someone's property because you're so angry at them that they did something you don't like, then you got to make restitution. All the laws that we keep are not because we agree with it. The stuff we like and the stuff we don't like necessarily, or don't understand, I should say rather. Right? You do it not because you agree with it. You do it because God said so. Because I, God, am holy. Because I make you holy. We, as a nation, are not holy because we do great things, because we give charity. Yes, Jews give a lot of charity. That's not what makes us holy. All right? Jews do many things that I've read on social media that Jews love to tell everyone. Do you know how just now in the whole coronavirus, what's going on? How many soup kitchens the Jews have sponsored and take Hatzalah, the volunteer ambulance, who they'll come again. Every member of Hatzalah who comes to your house, if you have an emergency, they don't get paid for it. They come because they want to save people. They'll go to Jews and non-Jews. It's a holy thing. It's a special thing. Absolutely. That's not what makes them holy. What makes the nation of Israel holy is the fact that we have a special connection to God. He is holy, and He makes us holy. That's it. Now going back to now let's connect it all. The wonderful mitzvah that when someone dies and the deceased doesn't have anyone available to bury them, it is a great, wonderful mitzvah that even the Kohen Gadol has to step away from his duties and take care of the burial. Now remember, coming in contact with a dead person means now that the Kohen or the Kohen Gadol will not be able to perform their duties in the temple for at least a week. Doesn't matter. Step away from your duties and bury this person who was a met mitzvah. Not because it's such a great and wonderful thing. It is. It's a great, wonderful, merciful thing. Because God said so. That's the reason. We follow the commandments. Why do we not sacrifice an animal that's born during the first week? We don't sacrifice it. We let it stay with its mother for the first week. Yeah, it's a merciful thing, but that's not the reason. The reason is like any other commandment, because it's a commandment in the Torah. God said so. You cannot sacrifice a mother and a child. Somewhere else in the Torah it says that you cannot take a baby chick, or it applies to any animal actually, can't take it away from its nest in front of the mother. All right? And the Gemara tells us, the Talmud tells us, that if someone says, oh, look how wonderful it is. You see, the Torah is merciful. You're supposed to shut him up and tell him, no, you don't even understand anything about the Torah. Why? Yes, it's merciful. But we don't praise God and praise the Torah when He gives us a mitzvah that seems righteous to us. We don't praise God in the Torah as though, I approve, I now grant my approval to the Torah. The mitzvah is holy because God said so. We don't sacrifice the same cattle and its mother in the same day, not because it's merciful. Certainly it's merciful, but that's not the reason. The reason is because God said so. But by the same token, when God tells us that a Kohen is not allowed to marry a certain woman, but he loves her, yeah, too bad. The Torah says something in the Torah, and you have to follow the Torah. The Torah tells us to put to death someone who commits blasphemy. Oh my God, can you imagine what Western society would say about a thing like that? The Torah, why do we do it? The Torah said so. The stuff we understand and the stuff we don't understand. And incidentally, I mentioned last week the concept of Achrei Mot, Kadoshim Emor, the three Parshot that go in line. Achrei Mot, after death, Kadoshim, holy, Emor, you shall say. And I think perhaps maybe that's the reason why this person is blasphemer, why his name wasn't mentioned, so that we don't, when we read about his death, we don't now talk holy of him. Right? Achrei Mot, Kadoshim Emor, after that. Well, no, we're not going to know his name, and so we don't have anything holy to say about him. The only thing we can say about him is that he committed blasphemy, whether we like it or not, whether we understand it or not. God said to do this, and we did this. And the nation of Israel took him out, and they followed God's commandment. The lesson here is, sometimes we don't understand. That's okay. We don't have to understand everything. And we don't have the right to apply our logic and our understanding to God, who understands infinitely more than us. when we go through tragedy, there's tragedy going on right now, right? Understand that we don't understand, but we continue to follow the Torah obediently, because we know that that is what makes us holy, and if that makes us holy, ultimately that will put the world in a better place, whether we understand it or not at the moment. That's my Torah thought. What's yours? Thank you for watching, and have a great week, and Shabbat Shalom.